Hi everyone, welcome back. So, for today's video, we're going to be watching Ruairi, I think it's called. They know exactly what they're doing and they don't care. So, this is a therapist spitting pure facts, but it's about relationships and toxicity that happens within them. So, let's get right into it.
I hear this a lot. Do they know that they're causing harm? Yes, they do. They're adults. They know what they're doing. They know when they're causing you harm. They know when they're taking you for granted. They know when they're not being respectful. They know when they're being abusive. They know when they're manipulating and exploiting. And it's not like, oh, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they're doing it. They do, because there's certain people in their lives that they wouldn't dream of doing that. You just don't happen to be one of them. They see you more like a resource, like a commodity, somebody that they can manipulate, use and abuse for their own personal gain. They meet their own needs at your expense. They're not sitting there thinking, I wonder, am I the right person for them? Am I the right kind of partner that they need in their life? They're not thinking about that at all. They are only thinking, how can I get what I need from this person, regardless of the impact that that's going to have on them? Regardless of the harm that this is going to cause, they will probably gaslight, manipulate, use, abuse, guilt trip, whatever they need to do, even including intimidation, being physically intimidating, emotionally manipulating, putting you down, attacking your character, whatever it is that they need to do, they will do to control, to intimidate, and to be able to meet their needs at your expense. For them to say they don't know that they're doing that is ludicrous. People know right from wrong. People know when they're causing harm. People know when they're consciously doing something that's having a detrimental or negative impact on the other person. And when we start to give them this kind of narrative of, oh, well, they don't know what they're doing, you're staying stuck in a situation that you know is no longer safe for you to be in. And the problem...
Yeah, exactly. It's you just you've got to break that cycle at some point. It's like at a certain point you've got to be like, this is enough. This person is never going to change, and as long as I'm with this person, that they aren't getting any help for their problems. They're just, they've got something wrong with them, some kind of personality issue, whether it's BPD or something like that, and I'm not helping them by being with them. I can't be their therapist. It's like that's not what a relationship is for. They need to go and seek out some help, but oftentimes they don't want to do that for whatever reason. Probably because it's difficult. You have to spend months, maybe even years of counseling and therapy to, kind of talk through your problems and figure out strategies to improve on them. So yeah, it's just easier for people to just keep abusing others to try and feel like a sense of, kind of like a control or whatever in the life, because maybe they had some issues going back to childhood or something, and so yeah, of course they do know what they're doing. They are, there's people that they would never do that to probably because they just never get away with it. Like they know that they can maybe get away with it with a lover because that person has grown attached to them, and they feel like, well, actually, they can just kind of, I can just manipulate them, and they'll still want to be with me because I've broken them down so much that they feel like they're nothing without me. They become attached to the point where they can't bear the thought of losing you, even if they are abusive. So let's carry on.
Problem is, you might actually love and care about this person. You might have these conflicted feelings. You might even be in a trauma bond. But there is no way we can rationalize and justify abusive behavior once it's in our conscious awareness that this is going on. The urgency that's there is for you then to get resourced, to be able to get away from this person safely, and to be able to rebuild your life, rebuild your confidence, and rebuild your identity away from that person. And to learn and discern who's worth your time, who's worth your energy, who loves, values, respects, appreciates, and wants to be with you, wants to grow with you, wants to see you grow into the very best version of yourself because they're not insecure, because they love everything about you, they love the idea of who you could be, because they want to be in your energy for good, not so that they can just meet their needs at your expense. That is such a massive difference. And if you're in these...
Well, yeah, it's like you have to really vet the persons and make sure that you're with someone who's secure in themselves, not someone that's got baggage and stuff. And some people are good at hiding it, but you have to try and learn to discern these things, look out for any red flags. Of course, don't get too, kind of focused on red flags, because then you might ignore, green flags. That it can just become like everything's a red flag. So be careful of that. But yeah, just stay vigilant. Just try to kind of clue up on these warning signs, the way that people will act, because oftentimes the cracks in their character will show pretty early on, because I don't think anyone's perfect at acting like they're actually in love with you or whatever, and that they actually care about you. That there will be cracks that will probably show through, like maybe it's even just in the way that they're, like their tonalities and different things about them that but also make sure that you get like outsiders' opinions and stuff like that, to kind of, they might pick up on things that you don't, just so like it's good to have friends around you, but if they start cutting you off from friends, then that's obviously something that you need to walk away from. But just make sure that you get a second opinion, because you might be blind to some of these things. You might not realize how toxic it is, because you're in love with this person, and then they just start slowly but surely changing, but it might be happening so slowly that you don't even realize it. So if you can have, say, like a friend who can, maybe they'll notice these things that you haven't noticed. And just gotta make sure that you've got somebody that can support you, whether it's a friend, a family member. Try to make sure that they can kind of like observe these things, so that that you're not just kind of trying to discern by yourself, because that can be quite it can make you vulnerable. But yeah, having someone by your side can definitely make you, just like, it's less dangerous then. So yeah. Anyway, let's carry on.
These relationships where at one point in time it was really good, and now it's not. Now it's become really toxic or really abusive. You need to get off the nostalgia highlight reel, and you need to see it for what it is. You might care about the person, you might be hung up on the idea of who they could have been, the potential that was there if they had only just put the effort in and maintained it. But the reality is, they're showing you who they are. They're showing you through their behaviour. They're showing you through acts of contempt. They're showing you through those moments where they're being abusive, manipulating, degrading, demeaning, whatever it is. It's you that needs to give yourself that permission slip to be like, no more, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. They don't deserve a place in my life.
Yeah.
I don't have to attach my confidence to somebody that's an absolute parasite, that's leeching the very life force essence out of my being, because I'm taking responsibility for their stuff.
Well, this is the thing, is oftentimes these kind of people will prey on the kind of people who maybe do lack some self-confidence, and maybe if you have a little bit of self-esteem issues, confidence issues, you feel a little bit insecure, then they can sort of weaponize that to kind of just be able to completely break you down. Because someone who has true confidence that is unbreakable, then they cannot break you down. There's nothing they could do to break you down, because if you are someone who, say, like, you just don't care what others think, you don't care about external validation, then what is it that this person can do to make you feel bad? Where you feel whole within yourself. You don't require praise, admiration, attention, even. You just require just the basics, just warmth, just peace, nourishment, all those kind of just basic necessities. And anything else would be a bonus. But yeah, it's just about kind of prioritizing what's the most important, your mental health, all of that. And then, yeah, having somebody in your life can be a bonus. It shouldn't be almost like a necessity because they can just weaponize that. Anyway, let's carry on.
That's not your responsibility. It was never your responsibility. They take on their problems, they take on their insecurities, they take on the things that they themselves will not work on, that they will not take responsibility for. You're not their caretaker. That's not what love's about. You're not supposed to throw yourself over burning coals to facilitate that person meeting their own needs. That's not your role. That's not what a relationship is supposed to be. That is not a test.
Yeah, that's it. They just want to just see how far you're willing to, kind of go to meet their demands or whatever. Because if they're so insecure about their own, that they need, they have such a fragile ego and they need that constant validation, and then that's, that's their problem. You're not supposed to be their therapist. You're not supposed to be, and if they start, being toxic and, that they show that they don't love you, they just show that they don't respect you, then why should you show that back to them? Like, people have all this like unconditional love thing, but it's like, but it can just be very naive, I would say. Because people will sort of like see the best in others when they're in these situations where they'll try to justify people's bad behavior and be like, oh, well, maybe it's because they, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's not their fault, maybe they're, sometimes, maybe they did have a bad childhood or something like that. But it still doesn't give them an excuse. And they should be working on themselves. Like, they shouldn't have got with you just to abuse you. Surely they must be self-aware enough to know that they're just going to not be, able to function in a relationship with you because they're just going to end up hurting you. But they don't care. So, if they've got BPD or some other crap, then that's fair enough, but like, it's not an excuse though. And sometimes people play on these things, I reckon. It's almost like some people don't want to help because they just want, because I don't know what it is. Some people just love being horrible and they'll find any excuse just to be that. And yeah, they really do need some psychiatric help or something, but I don't know, some of them might even be beyond help, I don't know, but I think some of them just need to be just completely, just stay single and never, get with anybody because they're not going to be a positive to that person's life. And it's not really helping them in the long run either. That's the thing. Like, they'd be far happier if they just got the help that they need. But some will just choose to be narcissists and whatever name you want to throw out there. I mean, I can't diagnose people with any specific problems, but yeah, just like I said, just stay vigilant. So carry on.
Test, it's not an act of love to see how much harm you can endure for somebody else. who isn't taking any responsibility for their own well-being, for looking after themselves, for working on their own issues, that's not on you. And that's not a relationship that you need to condition yourself to accept or to stay in, or to be guilted or manipulated into staying by anybody at all.
Alright. So that's just like a one-way love, whatever you call it, like a one-way street. It's basically it's not a situation you want to be in. If it's not being reciprocated, then, just pack your bags and go. I mean, of course, it's not so simple for some people if it becomes really abusive, especially if it starts to get to where there's like, they start becoming threatening and stuff like that. But you need to make sure that you can contact somebody who can get you out of that situation, whether it's a family member, someone that you can move in with, perhaps temporarily, to get out of it. Because some people feel trapped, they feel like they can't get out of it. It's this whole like, can get to like that whole Stockholm syndrome thing, and or they feel like there's nobody else. They feel like that they are dependent on that person. So yeah, you should be out of it long before it gets to that kind of point. So, but like I said, love is blind a lot of the time, but you have to still be thinking with your mind, not just your heart, because oftentimes it's all about their heart, but it's like their brain needs to be like, this is toxic. Why am I staying in this? This ain't right. This is not something that's going to serve me in the long run. I deserve to be with someone who reciprocates and isn't abusive. It's just it's crazy how much people will endure. Yeah, psychology can be so effed up sometimes, but it's just it's a very complicated thing, and and if you're feeling like you're struggling to move on from someone who isn't respectful, isn't showing love, then maybe you need some help as well. Maybe you need to seek a therapist or something like that to feel confident in yourself. And there is a lot of bad ones out there, especially the online ones, but just try to make sure that it's one that is going to help you with that. But then again, as I said in a previous video, I don't really have much faith in it, but there's even things like online resources out there that you can use to try and move on. Videos, there's websites and things that you can find to help you move on. You don't necessarily, I mean, it all depends on your situation, but as to whether a therapist could help you, or some like online resources. But yeah, there's things like shadow work, which can help some people with overcoming maybe some like traumas and like negative reinforcement. So like if you've been picked on as a kid, maybe you weren't, like you had something about you, maybe you had ginger hair or something like that made them pick on you or something, or make fun of you, and that might be in your subconscious, and it's something you have to work on. You have to so anything that makes you feel insecure, that makes you feel like you're not worthy, this is something that you have to let go of, and it's all about doing that that inner work. So yeah, there is, like I said, there's resources out there, whether it's online or maybe a therapist that can help you with that. But I'm not here to tell people what to do, but just find the answers yourself. I'm just kind of giving some suggestions. But that's the video. It was really good. That was a guy who was actually a therapist, so actually giving out some good advice. But yeah, hope everyone has a great day. I'll be live later, so yeah. Peace out, everybody. Bye.